then the work that we did as an organization there, the state of provinces, the student command, the governance issues, and of course we pay tribute to gallant fighters and the eminent persons whom we have lost domestically and internationally. Of course, in the conclusion where we thanked all members and leaders who made the work of the organization seamless and efficient over the period under review. We made it a point that you have got the copies prior to the reading, and I'm sure a soft copy has been sent to you by Commissioner Mbuyiseni. Yeah, we're fine. Thank you.
Thank you, SG. Thank you, SG. So if you check on the WhatsApp group of the media, we have given you the organizational report. In the next few minutes, we'll also post the political report of the CIC. Can I invite you for questions? Those of you who've got some burning issues. Number one, number two, where's my mic? Is there anyone else? Number one, who's number two, number three? Anyone else? Number three, number four. All right, number one.
Okay. Thank you very much. SG, I've got two questions. Let me just rush to the first one. On page 18 of your organizational report, at the second and the last paragraph of page 18, you make a comparison of the CIC to Robert Sobukwe and how, the relation that you make between the two. You go on to say that if Julius Malema is arrested, the EFF would ultimately die like the PAC died after the arrest of Robert Mangaliso Sobukwe, who was the leader of the PAC at the time. But there are various interpretations to this particular statement beyond the arrest that you allude to here. Others saying that the undertone here is the, message that you endorse Mr. Julius Malema for leading the party for the longest of time by saying that there is no EFF outside him. Is that the true reflection in the undertone that I'm talking about? And then secondly, on the issues of the cases of the members who were expelled and who have appealed to the NPA, I see there's about 8 cases that are listed here. How does that process work in terms of how the appeal is processed here by the NPA, and when is that going to happen? Thank you very much.
Number two, right behind you. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thanks. Mine is a bit of a naughty question from the province of the Western Cape. In a by-election last year in the town of George, your party managed to set a new South African electoral record by getting 0 votes in a by-election. How did that happen? Was the candidate not living in the constituency, or did they not believe in themselves? And is it wise to put up candidates in elections where you get less than 10 votes in a ward?
Number 3. Yeah.
Good evening, Kaya Koko from the Star. I just want to find out from the SG regarding the court matter in Ugu, KZN. I see that there's a challenge, a court challenge to that you listed in your organizational report. There's a court challenge to the RPA which was held there. You say the organization is defending it. What grounds are they challenging the conference on? Can you perhaps share on that? And where is the court matter right now? Thank you.
And then last hand this side, number 4, Newsroom Africa. The right news with a Z and Africa with a K.
Definitely. Pelane Phakgadi from Newsroom Africa. I'm also literally on the
print of my first colleague there. I didn't get his name, who spoke first on the issue of the PAC, the comparison with the PAC, and are you perhaps saying that is a bit of a concession to say that this may happen, that some of the charges are so perhaps they seem like they have so much power that they may be an arrest and conviction, and that may lead to perhaps some the support of the EFF declining. So just a bit of clarity on that, on your statements there, on the comparison with the PAC. Does it mean that without the CIC, then that means the EFF might be going south?
Okay, Secretary General.
On the comparison of the president and Comrade Sobukwe, the president spoke of a similar situation in the political report. As a matter of fact, the reality is that once an idea is at a formative stage, you do not necessarily have to disturb its growth. And the economic freedom fighters as a movement is an idea whose time has come. And the only way you can disrupt it is to look for those who conceptualize the idea, who conceived the idea, and remove them from society. And definitely the rest will follow, because it is an idea. It's a new mission. Our people all along have believed in a political freedom. The rest shall follow. And all of a sudden, an idea that came which says we have a generational mission. We must craft our own and decide whether to strive to achieve it or to betray it. We cannot live in the carcoons and shadows of our forefathers, who actually, their battle cry was political freedom in our lifetime. And they've achieved it, and they are a generation that is almost no more. We are also a generation that have come up with our own generational mission. And it will take other decades or more, half a century, if the first generation of the leadership of that idea actually is removed from society. Remember, the idea of this new generation and the generational mission actually disturbs the status quo of white monopoly capital, the owners of the means of production, and those who have actually captured the state and actually controls the levers of the state. And we should expect everything as it happened with the former Nationalist Party apartheid government. We shouldn't be surprised with such a speculation, because in any way the current regime actually demonstrates has the characters of the Nationalist Party of the Guatemalan regime of the 70s and the 80s. On the second question of the Section D25 applications, as we call it, the disciplinary matters, the Code of Conduct provides that we should receive such letters and table them before plenary. We have tabled them before plenary. We will be referring them to a special committee, which special committee, having gone through the documentation that is available in the organization. What will be the documentation? It will be the initial complaint, it will be the charge sheet, and it will be the verdict of the first tribunal, the verdict of the appeal of the decision of the tribunal, and the communication of the outcome of the tribunals, and a summary of facts and the merits of the issues, and then the committee that will be set up by plenary will therefore advise what should be the outcome that must be communicated to the applicants, and once it has been communicated to the appellants, and then we shall make it public to the rest of the world. But for now, let's allow plenary to set up a special committee to look at that issue. One more other question was, why should EFF continue to field candidates in wards where it receives less than 10 votes? But the fact of the matter is, those who have been at the IEC election center, the first results that comes out, total registered voters, 22. Total valid votes, 22. This and that organization, 17. This and that organization, 4. EFF, 1. You can tell that we're already in the race. Otherwise, once it says 0, the people say, what is this? What are we dealing with here? They cannot actually contextualize it in such a way that to say, oh, by the way, this is Robben Island voting station, or Stellenbosch voting stations, where the farm workers actually vote in terms of what the farm owner says. But nonetheless, it is a training ground. It is a training ground of training our ground forces for times to come. Because it can't be that you just choose your battles and you'll be disappointed. The fact of the matter is, it's a training ground, and we need to spend money, resources, and we actually take it we don't take it very kindly for any leadership in a branch, in a region, in a district, in a province that actually drags its feet and end up embarrassing the organization without participating there. There are those who have actually gone through disciplinary proceedings. They've got reprimand in the final notice, and final reprimands never to fail to register a candidate. I mean, it becomes big news that EFF failed to contest just because of lazy people who say they are EFF members. Sometimes, you'll never know that what you're dealing with, because the same thing happened with another political organization I won't mention, which failed to register candidates in the past local government election. We must know what we're dealing with here. We may be actually infiltrated by a person who just wants to demoralize our people in such that they actually don't even know that the EFF is existing. Every vote counts. It may not be a swing vote today because it is by-election, but it is a vote that counts in other types of elections. And there is no way, if you read our report, you'll realize that sometimes in 2014, we had 3 wards where EFF got 0. In 2016, we had 2 wards where EFF got 0. In 2019, not even a single ward where EFF got 0. And you now cascade it down and analyze it at micro level. In 2014, probably we had 1,109 voting stations where EFF got 0. In 2016, probably is 1,300 and something where EFF got 0. That is voting station out of 22,000. But compare it to 2019. We improved from 1,300, 0 voting station, to I think 399. come 2021 and 2024, we should be, I mean, we're moving from 1,300 to just a 300. That was a 1,000 leap. And if we had had that attitude that we don't contest the voting wards and voting stations, we were more likely to get zero. How would we have made that improvement? It's not going to be allowed, it's not acceptable, and we'll definitely have to take serious, stiff actions against such people. The court matter in Ugu. That matter has got 2 stages. The first one was a group of people went to court. When they were about to be given a date, they withdrew the case. Then another group came in and took over the case at de novo and became new applicants in the matter. That's an abuse of a court process. So we are defending the matter. They are praying to the court for the invalidation of the Regional People's Assembly of Ugu and consequently the People's Assembly of KwaZulu-Natal. And we have opened criminal case against them, for your information, because the very same people have provided under oath affidavits in court that actually they committed a crime against EFF by forging quite a number of deposit slips. They say they were trying the system. You know, a sting operation is not allowed in South Africa unless it is authorized by a magistrate or an officer of law. So they say they were doing that, they were testing the system, and now they want to be beneficiaries of a criminal conduct. So parallel to their so-called action which we are defending, we have actually opened criminal cases against them. And the bank, FNB, will be giving evidence in that court that we don't know this deposit slip and what is called LURE. You lewd people and misrepresented to people, and for people to believe that this is valid and truthful, when actually know that you are such an IT guru to have generated things that we don't know, and you put it under oath that I actually generated this. You must read the court papers. Who asked the question? Yeah, you must read the court papers and realize that your sources are the actual criminals who must be arrested. They are not needed in society. So that's how we're proceeding. We have replied to the affidavits. We have made answering affidavits. We're waiting for a court date. It will be heard in no time. And we're very optimistic that it will be dismissed with cost, and we're going to sue them and take them to the dustbin and make sure that even their chickens and dogs are sold to recoup the cost of the EFF. And in some instances, such court actions against EFF, in particular in KwaZulu-Natal, you find that these are agent provocateurs who have got 2 senior counsels who come at no less than 500,000 rand each. And you'll wonder how an unemployed member of EFF can have such a high-powered legal representation. And there is an indications that they are being properly financed by some entrepreneurs of the ruling party. And we've got evidence in some instances. And when it smells like that and looks like that, you can tell that it is exactly what you think it is. What other issue? Yeah, I think we've dealt with the issue of the comparison between our president and the issue of Comrade Robert Sobukwe. It's not an endorsement that there won't be an EFF outside him, and it's not a confirmation that we think that he's actually facing serious criminal cases. Let the law take its course. He has never refused to go to court. But as a matter of fact, what we know is that we're all under siege. AfriForum raises funds. In the website, you'll see that please donate money so that we can stop Africans from getting access to our land. And the only proponent of a land expropriation without compensation and the only voice of reason in South Africa is EFF, and the leader is President Julius Malema. And it is in the best interest of white supremacy and the apartheid racist of the white settlers who came to South Africa to actually get him arrested for any other thing that they think it should be. I mean, I'm also being investigated for some useless rantings on social media. Everybody in the EFF, even some, in fact, there's almost the whole leadership, AfriForum is always in courts, abusing the money that they get from the donors just to ensure that African leadership must be put behind bars. And when we raise that issue, it doesn't mean necessarily that we endorse that there's no EFF without President Julius, or rather, actually, President Julius is facing a tangible criminal charges. No. Thank you.
Okay, let's attempt last round. Number 1, number 2, number 3. How about we start with number 3 this time? Number 1, you are indeed a number 1.
SG, Sheldon Morais here from News 24. In the organizational report, under communication...
Are you asking the question on behalf of Daily Maverick?
No, on behalf of News 24.
Or because your editor said you'll be asking on behalf of Daily Maverick?
Where it was put, SG, but this one is all my own. SG, in the report, it's noted under communication the split between men and women, with it being skewed towards young men. And I think the president also noted it in a press briefing not too long ago about the while there has been a significant growth in membership and support, it's mainly amongst men. What do you think? What would you ascribe that to, number one? And then how do you think, coming out of this conference, the party will, look to address that, to be more appealing to women voters and members as well?
Number 2, Chief, don't be, come stand next to him, so that when he's done, he doesn't look for you. You see what I mean?
SG, it's Nao Mutlong from Jacaranda FM. Dr. Godwish, I just want to ask, when you look at the word corruption in the document, it appears in 15 pages, right? So one of the cases that you guys reported at the Johannesburg Metro Council is A719. I would like you to please elaborate, why did EFF propose that this case be investigated? And since we know that, I don't know when this report was finalized, but since we know that the council in Johannesburg has changed, because the document says the recommendations that were made by the management are currently being discussed. So since leadership in the province has changed, what's the status on that case? And when you scroll through the document...
What page is that particular case?
It's 149. It's on page 149. And when you scroll through the page, when you search corruption in that document, it appears it goes into Free State, it goes into other provinces. But when it comes to Limpopo, funny enough, even when you look at Johannesburg, the case that has been reported that EFF is involved with the fleets, the car fleets, is not in any way mentioned. When you go to Limpopo, the nostalgic VBS is not mentioned in any way. but that's it. I just want to know, are these cases of corruption very selective, or is it corruption that does not involve the EFF? And when you look at economy, it's also mentioned, it appears in 24 pages, and the only points of references that are made, and the one that I'm going to read about is on page 86. The only references of economy or any points of reference come from Cuba and China, and we know the labor laws in those countries. So in page 86, you guys are proposing what is called, sorry, let me get my glasses. Economic freedom marches that will take place around economical hubs around South Africa. So doesn't it feel like, it feels from the first briefing we had with, from the first we had with Ntate Malema, it feels like the EFF is secluded when it comes to the economy of the world. Like, the only reference is Cuba and China. How is the EFF going to make sure that the transition from a Western-controlled capital economy of South Africa is smooth, that we do not go through a recess or any form of civil war?
Which paper are you from? Oh, the final hand is Sowetan.
SG Khotato Madisa here from the Sowetan. My questions are on the student command. You mentioned here, SG, that the participation in the Fees Must Fall movement led to a lot of issues with the movement, the arrests of the students, and so forth. Are you saying that, what are you saying basically? Are you saying it was regrettable to have participated in the movement? But linked to that question is you mentioned non-existent coordinating structures, which saw the student command basically living inside the Fees Must Fall movement. What are you saying, though, then about the deputy president of the EFF, as well as Mr. Mboiseni Ndlozi there, who were basically tasked with forming such coordinating structures in the formation of the student command? Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's the final question. SG?
Thank you very much. The Deputy President and his team were tasked by the Central Command team to ensure that all processes are put in place and resources are unleashed in ensuring that the June 16 movement, the EFF Student Command, is actually launched and in 2015. That they did. And they lived up to the achievement of the task. But really, you can't expect them to abandon the primary task at their hand, which is upholding the EFF bottom up and not building the EFF student command. They left it to that incoming leadership of then fighter Mpo Morolane and fighter Piaba Madoko to take it forward. But within the circumstances, the environment, the constraints and limitations, we are truthfully reporting what went through in that struggle of Fees Must Fall and the location of the EFF Student Command in the midst of the scheme of things then. And it can't be that we should not account why the student did not have a coordinating structures in provinces. You'll know, as I know, that some institutes of higher learning are more like seasonal, and the turnover of leadership and membership is so high such that it has an impact on stability of an organization from one institution to the other, from one campus to the other. So these are more likely to be permanent limitations and challenges that the student command will go through for some time to come. What is important is that they must have a life of their own, have a contingency plan to mitigate on the risks that are obvious in the life and struggle of students in campuses. It can therefore not be said that that failure of the then leadership and successive leadership of the student command can therefore attributed to Commissar Dr. Ndlozi and the Deputy President. They actually performed the assignment given to them by the organization with the excellency and distinction. Do we regret on the arrest and expulsions of the students due to the involvement in the FISMA's fall? Not at all. Does the nature and inherent risk and consequences of getting involved in a revolution prior to 1994, we all knew that it was death and detention, it was assault and exile, it was long-term jail, it was staying away from home, not having food. It is the nature of the struggle and revolution, and students should expect that kind of conduct of a repressive state that is controlled by white monopoly capital, whose status quo must never be disturbed by an African leadership and an African child. To that regard, we can't say we regret for the arrest and expulsion. Actually, it is the economic freedom fighters that has been in the forefront to provide the necessary support to most of the students who were arrested, detained, jailed, and expelled at schools. If you read the report, somewhere we speak of legacy project. You should tell us about 3 TUT students, Mildred and others. I don't know what page it is on the legacy projects of the EFF, wherein we actually assisted students who were expelled at school. We had to engage with eminent persons of the society to go and screw some sense on the head of the VC that, look, you are a VC, you yourself was once expelled at school, and here the students are doing exactly what led to your expulsion, and you can't expel them for 5 years and they are final year students. It can't happen. I mean, the men came back and said, but really that is true. Readmitted the student who had served eight months of suspension out of the 5-year suspensions that that was imposed on them. And we even organized some contingency plans to ensure that they've got accommodation, they've got tuition, finances for whatever that is needed. And they graduated and they're so happy. You must tell us better about the assistance we gave to Mcebo when even his own organization had actually deserted him. And many others. You knew for a fact that we went to the Constitutional Court and got a 250 rand bail for Bongenkosi Kanyele. We have never let the students down. We have been there for them. We have been with them in the picket lines. We have been in court with them. We have raised the issues in Parliament. In fact, it is the ruling party that has shut down most of the motions that we have debated on the what do we call that? Pardon and expunging of the criminal records and giving them a presidential pardon to come out of jail. The issue of Qeqeshe, it is the EFF that instructed its attorneys, and you don't want to know what is the bill of just assisting one student, Bonginkosi Kanyele, up to the Constitutional Court, from Magistrate Court to High Court to Supreme Court of Appeal, up to Constitutional Court. You can imagine how much it is. It's not less than R1 million or so. And you can tell me how many of these cases the EFF has been involved assisting the students. Some of the students who are not even members of the EFF Student Command throughout the country. You may only know about these high-profile cases, but there's quite a lot of them that the organization has been involved in, getting the students out on bail, getting them charges withdrawn against them, engaging with the NPA at a certain point in time. Even magistrate actually at a certain point in time said, but what is this? Because they themselves are also products of Bantu education. They were also expelled from school. And at a certain point in time, they came out strongly against the prosecution of the students. But we are working on those issues, in particular that of Qeqesha. What was the other issue? How will transition be smooth without a civil war? Really, in DRC there is investment, but there's been a civil war for the past 30 years or so. There's investment in Rwanda and Burundi, in all conflict, in all conflict countries. There's a lot of investment, and we can't be threatened with civil war when actually we were speaking peace about the restoration of an African dignity. And I don't know how such a question could be sponsored by an African journalist really to tell us and threaten us and frighten us about civil war when we speak on issues of African dignity. I think you must be asking the question on behalf of Daily Maverick. It's no longer the News 24. It's even not worth a question really to engage with. You rather try to go back to the basic of journalism. You can't really ask that question about a very serious issue in this country of inequalities, particularly against the African people. Speak about page 86, why China and Cuba. There's something good that we will definitely take from the people and government of China and Cuba. There's something definitely that is happening in China and Cuba which will actually never work in South Africa. And to a greater extent, much of what is happening in those two countries will actually work for South Africa. I have never been to China until sometimes last year I flew in looking for T-shirts of the EFF and went through those cities, one city called what? Guangzhou, I think. And one couldn't believe what he saw there, that is this really a state-controlled economy that is even far better than Cape Town, Johannesburg, and Durban. There's so much good that we can learn from these economies. Unless we are fed with the propaganda seated here, how wretched the people of Cuba and China are, go there and see us. Me, at least, EFF gave me an opportunity to go and look for something good for the election, and I ended up seeing far much good things than in South Africa, in one city that is almost, whose population probably is more than the population of South Africa. And as long as an African journalist is fed propaganda by the white owners of that media, these are the questions we'll always come across in press conferences about Cuba and China, countries which you only do desktop research and you have never visited them. Really, it's not worth even to answer your questions on VBS. We have explained ourselves many times on VBS. I don't know whether that question is just planted to embarrass us from time to time. You can't see anything good about this conference, such that you must just ask a VBS. If you don't have a question, VBS. The next thing we'll find you in the dustbin like those Daily Maverick who go and look for condoms, used condoms and all those things. Do yourself a favor and just be relevant. I mean, your colleagues are asking very topical questions that actually need to bring clarity and certainty to the body politics of South Africa. Here you are just having a sponsored question that is very irritating. The corruption case in page 149 in Joburg, look for it, DSG, let's see how we can communicate with it. But the change of leadership in Johannesburg does not mean that when a case is in court, has been processed by courts or has been processed by a competent tribunal, the public protector, SIU, whatsoever, that a successor entitled will have to look the other way, I mean, that success and tackle is more likely to be found guilty of being complicit to corruption. So we look forward to every other case that has been completed and championed by the previous administration of Comrade Eman Mashaba to actually see the light of the day thereafter, as long as those criminal cases, corruption whatsoever, have actually been processed by competent authorities that I've referred to in other tribunals. Otherwise, you will agree with me, such a big report. For me, I must now look, what is page 149, which case, which bullet, which Roman figure at page 149, if you may assist. I'm sure...
There's nothing.
I can't even see a criminal case there. Will you wish to tell me?
The crux of the question is relating to if we are reporting selectively the corruptions in different municipalities. That's really the crux of the question.
It's not true. I may not have put in everything here, but you must just ask the police of the province of Limpopo, the province of Mpumalanga, the province of Free State. Our public representatives have done so much well. There's quite a lot of senior politicians and government officials that have fallen in Limpopo. You should know better as a journalist. Where is the speaker of this municipality? Where is the speaker of this legislature? Where is the MEC and minister or whatsoever big guy in Limpopo on corruption, of which such cases have been brought by the EFF, either through the police and or through the public protector? I know quite a number of them, and you should actually be sharing with me those good stories than actually to ask me if there are any such stories. You can go back there. Quite a lot of people of the ANC in particular are every day reporting in police stations, getting arrested because of the leadership of the EFF in the provincial legislature of Limpopo and our public representatives across the municipalities of Limpopo. And it cannot be true that there is a selective reporting of criminal conduct by EFF public representatives in Limpopo. Yeah. It's a nest of corruption. We must not report corruption cases. We can report in... what an innuendo is that? What are you trying to say? You're trying to say just because president comes from Limpopo, so corruption is being endorsed there, and then our people... That's the attitude. It's a wrong attitude. I really don't wish to meet you once more. I mean, what kind of an irritating question is that? Please, man.
You're done?
I'm done.
Thank you very much. That concludes. Come again?
First question on the gender.
Yes, the attraction of women into the EFF SG.
The head of communication should actually assist you with the answer to that question. But the fact of the matter is that through an engagement of a service provider to look at the profile of the EFF followers in the social media, that is the reality that has been picked up by the service provider whom we contracted to get us that profile of our followers. Well, the question is, why such a disparity of men and women following EFF? There could be both objective and subjective reasons, amongst which probably is the issue that the economic freedom fighters as an organization in its formative stage, that's why we even speak about an EFF Women's Command. Probably it could be a mitigating factor to the issues that we have raised. But also take note that in the province of Western Cape, at the University of Cape Town, the SRC on 2 academic years has been led by young young women of the EFF Student Command, and we are humbled by those young women of the EFF in the Western Cape and UCT in particular. Even if you go to DUT, and even in VET, so it was, but It's a process. We've picked up a weakness. That is why plenary now is being called upon to discuss, do we really have to have an EFF Women's Command to actually address these issues? DSG, you can say something?
No, it's fine.
Been a very long day, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. And the next time we meet, I will be bringing the Mr. Terry Tselane, so you can interrogate him about how he's going to conduct the elections. We at least anticipate that that process might start at 1,000 hours, 2,200 hours. And I will come to get you, because for now the session is closed because of the treasurer's report. Thank you, and see you later.